Alright guys, Bludger Boy here to play some more Ratchet and Clank 2. Getting the last 6 or 15 skill points in Ratchet and Clank 2, cleaning up the last half of the worlds, getting a few more platinum bolts, and the next video will be the last video of this entire series, going to fight whoever it is we have to fight on Planet Belden. Did I just say Planet Belden again? Instead of Beetle? God damn it. Seriously, this LP is just full of gaffes and mixing up words. It's just the most dyslexic LP ever. It's a PL. It's a pet sleigh. This has been the pet sleigh of Ratchet and Rank 2 Going Commando. I hope you've enjoyed it. So yeah, first order of business is of course what game I'm going to be LPing next. In the previous video I asked you what game you wanted. Most people responded with Deadlocked, which wasn't a surprise given that most people would be here for Ratchet and Clank and would like Ratchet and Clank, or at least the half of it that shoots everything, so Ratchet Deadlocked did win. Donkey Kong Country 2. Diddy's Conquest came in second. A couple of people mentioned that, but most people mentioned Deadlocked, if they mentioned any game at all. And at first I was like, cool, Deadlocked, I want to do Deadlocked, I've been hyped for it. Fuck it, let's just skip the HD release and do Deadlocked. So I hooked up the PS2 to do some test footage to see if I could just use the same settings I used for Ratchet and Clank 1, the Ratchet and Clank 1 LP, because I've got like templates and settings saved in Vegas, so I have to do less work. So I did some test footage, just did some things, and I noticed that the PS2 version of the game, not that it was the PS3 version to compare it with yet, but the PS2 was just not in the way it looked, just in just this kind of stiff control, and even the field of view isn't as good in the PS2 version, because in the PS2 version of Ratchet and Clank 2 and 3 and Deadlocked, the way they've done widescreen is they take the 4x3, the normal picture, the 4x3 picture, cut off the top and the bottom and just zoom it in. Like the 4x3 picture of the 3D area in which you're running around, not the heads-up display, just the area, the 3D area in which you're running around. They take the top and the bottom of it, they cut it off, and they zoom it in to make it widescreen. In the PS3 versions, they zoom out and expand the left and the right sides. So widescreen on the PS2 is effectively harder than the 4x3. Well, it's harder if you have widescreen on than if you have widescreen off. I'm pretty sure that's how it works in number 2 and number 3. It definitely is the way it works with Deadlocked when I played it. And that is one reason I'd much rather wait for the HD version now that I've actually gone back and played it. I didn't know it had that. I thought it zoomed out, or at least had a compromise where it zoomed out a little bit. Even if it cut off a little bit at the top and the bottom, it would at least expand a little bit on the left and right, but it doesn't. Which actually does legitimately make the game harder. And given that I'm going to be playing the game on Exterminator, like the hardest difficulty, right from the get-go, I'd rather not have that. Because that's a disadvantage that impedes my skill for no good reason. And granted, I mean, I've done Exterminator on the PS2 with that setback without even really noticing it, but I'd rather not have it. It's not a good look, especially when there's fucking enemies everywhere in that game, because it's more of an arena kind of thing, and the worlds are more open and less linear, so you will have enemies on all sides of you at certain points, and having that shitty field of view affects that. It makes things more difficult. Also, the fact that I use a component cable to record from both the PS2 and the PS3, and the connector is the same for both of them, means I have to unplug stuff from the PS3 to record the PS2, which would normally be fine, but the cable barely reaches. And given the amount of stuff I have in there now compared to when I did the Ratchet and Clank 1 LP, I'm stretching that cable and like damaging it by having it plugged in, and I don't want to break it, because if I break that, you've got no footage on either the PS2 or the PS3. That's worth looking at anyway. So, yeah. And just playing it, the control was kind of stiff, and it was weird. The game actually has auto-aim in it. Even if you have, like, lock strafe, where you don't have the thing where you hold. I think in Ratchet and Clank 3, I know you have it in Ratchet and Clank 3. In third-person controls, where if you hold down L2 and R2 and you have like a lock-on mod for that weapon, it will lock onto that enemy like GTA style, and you can like move wherever, and it will keep focused on that enemy. In Lock Strafe, I don't think you have that, or you do have it, but if you press L2 and R2, but you would never do that because you're strafing all the time anyway. But because I'll be using Lock Strafe to play the game, to play both Ratchet and Clank 3 and Deadlocked. And it's weird, I think it has this in Ratchet and Clank 3 as well. But I guess there's nothing you can do about it. It's just annoying. It's not really full-on lock-on in Lock Strafe mode. If you aim at an enemy, it doesn't like lock onto them such that wherever you move, you're always pointing at them. But what it'll do, it'll like kind of tilt the camera that way towards the enemy if you move around. If I move left and right, it'll kind of tilt the camera. It won't tilt it quite enough to keep it locked on, but it will tilt it enough for it to stay locked on unless you move a significant distance away, which is annoying and unnecessary, and I don't know why it has that. It's kind of silly how I'm complaining about the field of view being fucked up, which makes it harder, and then I'm complaining about auto aim, which makes it easier. I don't seem to be content with anything. But yeah, given that the HD version will remedy at least the field of view problem, nothing you can do about the auto aim. But it'll remedy that. It'll give me a smoother frame rate, because the frame rate of the PS2 is only going to be 25. 50 frames per second interlaced is equivalent to 25 frames per second progressive, which is what I'll be uploading it as, because interlaced footage is horrible to look at. Yeah, I don't know. And the release date for it seems to be, I've done some research, it seems to be around February, March. No like hard sources, but I've kind of sourced from multiple points, like GameFAQs forums and Wikipedia and stuff. Not that anything's reliable without a source, but someone on GameFAQs said that they'd spoken with Insomniac over Twitter. They said on the Ratchet and Clank Trilogy forum, the HD Trilogy forum on GameFAQs, that they'd spoken with Insomniac via Twitter, and they'd told them that it had been released around mid-February. And Wikipedia had it listed as March, even though it had no citation. Just March, no specific date. So, given that it's that close, it's like, fuck it, we'll do something else in the meantime. So the decision is Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Conquest. We've already started the faux pas and we haven't even started the fucking LP yet. Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Conquest will almost certainly be the next LP. If you have a fucking problem with that, please say so. That's another thing that kind of bothered me about the last video, not the video itself, but the comments, in that most people just didn't say anything, and I'm like, do you people not have an opinion? Like, do you just not care? Like, that's kind of annoying. Because the reason I asked you is so I don't play a game you don't want me to play. Whilst, you know, playing Ratchet Deadlocked is fairly safe, I wanted to change it up from typical Ratchet and Clank, so I asked your opinion to make sure you weren't going to be, you know, irritated with the game I was playing. I'm not going to bow down to you and do whatever you say, but at the same time, I do want you to enjoy the video, because if I'm going to be talking over the top of it, no matter, even if you think, or even if you're just here for the commentary, which some people are, and this is from people telling me this, not conjecture, if the video game footage is going to be behind it, it might as well be something you like watching, right? So, yeah. That's why I asked. And most people didn't respond, so I know it's an argument from ignorance, but I can only assume most people simply don't give a shit. If you do give a shit, then, you know, say something, but, you know. That just kind of, just like, oh, why didn't you say something? Like, clearly asked you to say something. The information in the video was a little bit contradictory to what I was saying in the description. It was a little bit, you were getting like mixed messages, which I apologize for, but you should always go off what's in the description, because the description is written after the video is made. In the video, it's kind of like, well, you could suggest a game, but I'm not going to do it unless I've played it, and da-da-da-da. And I added games right at the end of the video, but in the description, it was fairly clear you had 5 games to choose from. There were 2 people who didn't suggest games that were in that list. It was kind of like, I wasn't super frustrated, it was just like, why didn't you read it? One person realized their mistake, the other person was like, can you play Metal Gear Solid? Like, for fuck's sake. Oh, well, you can't... Not everyone can follow simple instructions. That's not my fault. But yeah, Diddy Kong fuck's sake, man! Donkey Kong isn't even in the fucking game. Until the end. It should be called Diddy Kong Country, to be honest with you. But yeah, Donkey Kong Country 2 will be the next LP. It's a platformer. It's Ratchet and Clank without. It's Ratchet and Clank with monkeys instead of, or apes instead of Lombaxes, and TNT barrels instead of explosive weapons. They're practically the same. They're practically identical. Come on. Something else that kind of got to me also, not that this is like a serious thing, like a big issue, but the number of likes on that video was it got to like 84 views and still had only like 1 like, and I usually don't give a shit about likes, right? I don't care. But that suggests to me that people don't like it when I talk about games. And I've been told that before as well. If you don't like me talking about games, again, fine, but you have to tell me that. Otherwise, I don't fucking know. I can't keep making arguments from ignorance like this, where I'm just making conjecture for the sake of it. It's silly. If you don't like me talking about a certain thing, then again, say so. You know, again, I'm not going to bow down to you and just talk about whatever you want me to talk about. I want to maintain control over this, obviously. But I'm not going to deliberately talk about things that bore you or don't entertain you. That's silly. If it's the way I talk about it, if I waffle on too much or whatever, again, you have to say so if there's an actual problem. So, yeah, I find it weird that people don't like me. It seems that people don't like me talking about games, even though it's a gaming channel. But whatever, you know. So yeah, Donkey Kong Country 2 Diddy's Conquest. It should be over in like half the time, because it's nowhere near as long as the Ratchet and Clank games are. Then Ratchet and Clank 3 will be right after that. Then certainly the HD release for Deadlocked will be out by then, and Deadlocked will come after Ratchet and Clank 3. And by the time TKC 2 is over, I'll be pumped for Ratchet and Clank 3. So yeah, 100% playthrough, getting all the coins and the bonus areas and shit. Should be fun. I don't know how many videos it'll be. The first few worlds will be done all in one video, or like the first couple of worlds will be done all each in their own video, because they're pretty simple. But towards the end, I'm going to be making mistakes and fucking up, so then it might be split by save points. Who knows? Anyway, yeah, it's kind of sad this is coming to an end. I really like this game. It's my favorite Ratchet and Clank player by a mile. It sucks. NCS's LP of DK64 is coming to an end too. And he's doing it blind, and he's copping all sorts of shit for doing it blind, because he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. And that's why I didn't want to do a blind LP. Because watching him do DK64, he doesn't know what he's doing. And he's making mistakes all the time. And it's frustrating to watch. I'll happily watch it, because I mean, I'm there for the nostalgia. I played that game as a kid. So, that's what I'm there for. And for the commentary, you know. I find him entertaining. But yeah, he's missing things. More than I'd be expecting him to miss things. He's kind of like overthinking it. A little bit, which is a little bit irritating. But, yeah, that's the very reason I did not want to do a game that I haven't played. Because I just didn't want to do it. I didn't want to be seen just fucking around for 10 episodes trying to get through one level. I just think that's silly. I'm not going to trash talk people who do it just off the fact that they do it. Because I think a blind LP is like a different thing in where you're witnessing the player discover the game. Whereas an LP of a game they've played before is more a demonstration of skill and knowledge of the game. A blind LP is like, oh, I've never played it before, but let's see what happens. Let's see what goes on in this game. It's kind of like a first reaction kind of thing. a first impressions documentary of someone's initial reaction to everything that happens in the game, and then trying to figure things out as well. Sometimes they're good at it, sometimes they're not. But people have been trash talking NCS a lot, like on his recent videos. There are like 2 people in particular who I won't name, but they've been going off in like every single comment section of the DK64 LP. It's ridiculous, man. It's just sad that they have nothing better to do than go off at somebody like that. And they push their opinion under the guise of, oh, we're challenging the norm and telling the truth that people are afraid to hear, but they're just bigots when you get right down to it. Sometimes they have a good point, but most of the time, the reason behind their comments is pure attention whoring and bigotry. It's seriously ridiculous. Like, and I'll be the first to admit that LP has not been a good demonstration of his skill at all. But we're talking about a guy here who's done Contra in One Life, who's done 3 Heart Runner Zelda. You know, he's not bad at games. He's bad at some games. He's really good at other games, right? I'm really good at Ratchet and Clank. There's demonstrable proof right in front of you that I can beat the fucking game without even using armor. Without even buying armor upgrades. Right? I've done it before. And beating it on the hardest difficulty and I wrote a walkthrough for a cracking time, and size matters. You know, I'm not bad at this by any stretch of the imagination, but you get me playing fucking Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter, I can't even get past the first fight in Mortal Kombat. I can't. I suck at it. I suck at RPGs as well. That's one reason I don't play them. They bore the shit out of me and I suck at them. I'm not good at every game there is, you know. I'm good at some games. I kick ass at Mario Kart, I kick ass at Ratchet and Clank, I'm pretty good at GTA. There are people who can whoop my ass in GTA, like GTA 4. But, you know, I've got my fair share of skill. But there are some games I just completely and totally suck at and will never be good at. I don't think 3D platformers are NCS's strong point, especially when he hasn't played them before. Yeah, and like, there's one guy who just misses the fact that he's done Contra in One Life and the 3 Heart Runner Zelda. Like, well, obviously he'll be good at it if he's done it over and over again. That doesn't count. What the fuck are you talking about? It doesn't count if he's done it over and over again. If he's practiced, it doesn't count? What does that mean? So, if you're good at something, it only counts if you have never practiced it before. What the fuck is that? You get good at things by practicing them. That's silly. That's fucking absurd. What an absurd viewpoint to have on something. It's so stupid. It's a blind LP. You expect to see faux pas. And again, I'll admit, he hasn't gotten through the game as fast as he should have. Like, there's a level at the end of the game where you have to do it in a time limit. And there are these things you collect in the game called blueprints, and the more blueprints you collect throughout the rest of the game, the more time you'll have at the end to do this timed level. He got all the blueprints, so he had the maximum amount of time. He only had a couple of minutes to spare at the end. It's not that hard a level. I myself, because I was playing the game with him as he went through the levels, after he did that level, I went through my file and did it. I did it in like 20 minutes. He took 45 minutes. There were a few stumble points that I had where I might have been able to do a little better, and granted, again, I know the game. I've beaten that game 3 times, twice 100%, so I know exactly what I'm doing. But at the same time, it wasn't as hard as he was making it out to be, and he was making really silly mistakes and kind of not doing as well. One of the reasons for that, though, he's playing on a piecey little screen, like a capture screen. Something probably no bigger than a YouTube video embedded on a YouTube page or embedded on a forum or something, if not smaller. He doesn't have it outputted to a TV because it lags. And the capture preview window in most capture programs lags a little bit in and of itself. So he's working with disadvantages here that you don't have when you hook it up straight up to a TV. Right? That impairs one's skill. And I know that because my capture window doesn't lag because the capture card's in my computer, so the processing's instantaneous. There's no transfer time or processing time due to external hardware or latency latency due to data transfer or anything like that. But the preview window being smaller than full screen, even though I'm sitting right in front of the computer, it can make things harder. Because like traffic in GTA, it takes longer to see it because you've got a smaller window. People come up. People are a lot harder to spot who might be shooting at you, you know. It does make things more difficult. And there's another thing that this guy keeps saying. He's like, oh, people keep white knighting him for talking about how he gave up cigarettes and how he's lost weight. Because NCS is like since 2009 he's been cigarette free. He hasn't smoked, and he's documented like weight loss on his Breaking NCS channel on the set and other. And people are white knighting him for doing that. And his argument for that is, well, if he hadn't have been addicted to cigarettes and if he hadn't been fat, then what would he have had to go off in terms of commentary? What would he have had to say? Nothing. He'd be nothing without his mistakes. Obviously, you'd be nothing without your fucking mistakes. Your mistakes are part of who you are. Right? Like, if Tim hadn't smoked cigarettes and hadn't have led an unhealthy lifestyle with his dietary habits and lack of exercise and whatever that made him fat in the past, he wouldn't be Timothy Bishop, he'd be someone else. It's an integral part of who you are. Your flaws and your mistakes that you've made in your past. That's your life, that's who you are. You wouldn't be the same person if you hadn't made those mistakes. What do we expect people to just be fucking perfect? And to never take any pride when they fix things in their life? People deserve to have a little breathing room for some pride. And if he's inspiring people to give up cigarettes and lose weight themselves, what's the fucking problem with that? What is wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. Obesity is a huge problem. I need all the mentors we can get for that. Not that I'm fat, but I mean, with the way I eat, I'm a fat person on the inside. I mean, all I eat is chips and chocolate and lollies and shit, so, like, really, I'm fat on the inside. I'm a fat man in a skinny man's body, but the point is, again, why are you complaining about that? Someone worked to improve their life, and you're seriously bad-mouthing them for that. People thinking he's like Jesus or whatever for doing that, you know, people putting him on this ridiculously high pedestal. That's being silly, but I've never seen those people. Anywhere, I've never seen those people. It's ridiculous. It's such a stupid thing to say, well, if you hadn't had that, then what would he be? He'd be a different fucking person, and he'd probably have other things wrong with his life. And another thing he went off at, in one of the recent episodes of the LP, in an episode, by the way, which was actually legitimately difficult, because he had to play like this old school retro Donkey Kong game, like a game within a game. The old Donkey Kong game where you play as Mario when he was known as Jumpman, and you got to climb the red kind of walkways as Donkey Kong's throwing the barrels down them. That old game. You have to play that, and you're going to beat that. You've got to beat it twice in Donkey Kong 64. You've got to beat it once to get a golden banana, and twice to get the Nintendo coin. And the Nintendo coin is one of 2 coins you need to unlock the final room in the final level after you've beaten it. After you've done the whole time limit thing that I talked about earlier. So you need it to beat the game. You need it to get the last key to unlock the final boss. And it is the only thing in the game I could not get as a kid. I could get everything else in that game except for that fucking Nintendo coin, because it's a fucking hard challenge. Not impossible, but it definitely took me a few tries even now when I did it. It didn't take me as long as he did. It took me like an hour or something like that. It was a half-an-hour episode just where he was trying to get that coin, and he made cuts all over the place. But that was one point where it was like legitimately hard, so yeah. Anyway, 1, he obviously got bad mouth for being bad at it. 2, he mentioned this study he read where people who don't lose their virginity by age 17 or something have problems later in life of some kind, social problems, anxiety problems, I don't know, something like that. And a lot of people commented on virginity, and most people were supportive, saying, you know, don't worry about it, Tim, it's not that big a deal. And I commented saying, look, virginity isn't that big of a deal. It's just going from having had sex, or not having had sex, to having had sex. That's all it is. It's going from not having had sex to having had sex. We don't do that for anything else. We don't have drug virgins or alcohol virgins or school virgins or car virgins, driving virgins. We don't have any of that, because virginity is the only thing we have it for. Virginity is the only thing which has been lauded as this optimal quality, especially with women. It's mostly religion that typed it up to be this fucking thing that you should have, this purity bullshit. It's nonsense. Sex is not that big a part of your life. It should be embraced and explored, but it shouldn't be hyped up to be this big fucking thing that, you know, oh, you're a virgin, that means you're a lesser person, who gives a shit? I said it in a more succinct form than that, but, you know, I basically said that his time will come. I said I was a virgin, my time will come, and so will I, you know. But yeah, I find that after I made that comment, I kind of went, a few people who watch my videos actually went to that, because it wants to come up in my feed, and a few people went and replied to it and said, hey, you're the guy who makes the videos, and I'm like, yes, I am. And I realized that if you listen to the commentary that I actually talk about, you'd be going, yeah, Mr. I want to do nothing but hug a woman and kiss a woman and fuck a woman. Virginity isn't important. Yeah, bullshit. But rationally, that's the actual position. It's not that important. I mean, I think it's a personal goal for me to lose my virginity. It's something I really want to do. It's something I really want to experience. But at the same time, I'm not a lesser person for being a virgin. You know? That's the rational viewpoint. It's something I really want to do, and it's something that should be, you know... Or not that should be, but that you shouldn't be ashamed for wanting or liking or not having done yet. It's just a small part of your life. It's not that big a deal. Just treat it like you treat anything else. Do it in moderation. Do the research. And reap the positives. Reap the rewards of it and avoid the dangers. Like anything else, right? But people came along and like this one guy came along and said, oh, you should have lost his virginity by now. And I can understand being a virgin at 17, but 36, he should have lost his virginity by now. According to what? According to your fucking societal norm that people apparently have to adhere to for no reason. You provided no justification for that. There is no evidence that fucking, or that having not fucked by the time you're 17 reduces anything in your life. You might feel a little socially awkward around people who have fucked. You might feel excluded or like less of a person. But that's because society has imposed that norm without justification. Mostly due to religious reasons, and, you know, people like to exclude other people for whatever reason they can find. Virginity is one of those reasons. People are judgmental cunts and will find any way to be judgmental cunts, right? And virginity is one aspect of you they can use to do that. People will seek out differences in society, within groups, within demographics, will highlight those differences to alienate people and exclude people. The government does it, businesses do it, marketing does it. It's all about control and putting yourself in a higher position than other people. It's just a superiority complex. It's nonsense, right? Sexual activity in general, I think, is something you should definitely be into. In that you should at least masturbate every once in a while to relieve yourself of sexual tension. There is demonstrable evidence that says that if you don't release sexual tension, and if you build it up, that is unhealthy. But all that takes is masturbating like once every week or every couple of weeks, whatever's right for you. And some people are asexual. Some people have no sexual desire whatsoever and don't need to do that. And they shouldn't be judged for that. It's not part of them that they can choose, you know. Whatever's right for you, it's different for everybody, right? There is no age, there is no correct age, quote-unquote correct age at which you can lose, at which you should lose your virginity. There just isn't. Doesn't exist, never has existed. We've just imposed it because we're judgmental fucks. End of fucking story, right? And there was another guy who came on and said that NCS is spineless. He used that word, and he's used that word every single time he's referred to it. He said spineless. NCS is spineless, and he should just man up. And again, I will admit he's very timid and very shy. But to use the word spineless in this context, not that the word by itself is offensive, because it's not, but the word spineless in this context puts forth the assumption that he can do something about it very easily. And that it's his own choice to be spineless. And, I mean, looking at his personality, I would not be surprised at all if he has Asperger's or mild autism. I'm serious. I would not be fucking surprised if he has that. If he has, if he suffers from social anxiety, and these are clinical disorders that can be psychiatrically diagnosed and psychologically diagnosed. Okay? They're not fucking made up. They're conditions in the human brain that affect how a person operates cognitively. Okay? And how people interact with other people. Personally, if someone said, and I guess and again, just saying, well, not again, but, you know, just saying he's spineless doesn't fucking do anything, does it? It does nothing, right? It doesn't, you're not offering him any solution, you're just saying, oh, he's spineless and he should admit to it. Maybe he already knows that. You know? And they could be very well right. He could suffer from just being spineless and not have any of those conditions that I just described, and just be a pussy, and you know, just be afraid of everything. I would personally ascribe my social life. Definitely, I'm very afraid of talking to new people, and things like that. But one, you know, it's not as easy as these people are making it out to be for him to just fix this problem. As I said, it might be a disorder in his head that might need to be worked out on a more advanced level than just fix it. And he might have a great deal of difficulty talking to people and meeting people. He's never been in a relationship, you know. That's another thing that this guy said about virginity. He should just go out and lose his virginity. It's really easy. Yes, it's totally easy to meet someone that you're attracted to and make a move on them and not feel awkward about that, especially at 36, because there is a social stigma around it. It shouldn't be there, but it is there, and it makes it more difficult, right? It's not that simple. Just do it. It's not a fucking answer. Just on an off note, here these are skill points 28 through 30 are the skill points you don't get on a particular planet. Here I'm just demonstrating the weapons you get that I don't have in the other one. A few of the upgraded weapons are different, like the gold versions of the weapons that I haven't upgraded to gold in my actual playthrough have differences, like the gold hover bomb gun has 3 bombs instead of 1. You'll see here the black sheepinator turns the enemies into sheep that explode. That green zappy thing that's coming off a Clank, that's the Clank Zapper. It's a useless piece of crap. You don't actually equip it, you have to select it in the weapons menu for it to work, but you can have another weapon equipped in the background. The Rhino 2 you just saw was that thing that just fires mortars all over the place. Fantastic weapon. That's the Zodiac. Pretty boring weapon when you think about it. You see how little damage the Clank Zapper does? It's a useless piece of crap. Anyway, going back to talking about NCS being spineless. And let's say that he is spineless in some aspects of his social life and things. I made the comparison to myself that I would definitely say I am spineless in my social life and with meeting people and talking to girls and shit. Definitely. 100% agree with you. 1, identifying it doesn't do anything because I'm already aware of it. You're offering no solution, you're just pointing out shit to me that I already know. And 2, just because I'm spineless in that one aspect of my life, does not mean I'm completely spineless. I have got 3 videos on the internet of me getting up in front of hundreds of fucking people and telling jokes. I'm sorry, that shit takes balls. It does. Right? I don't want to brag, but seriously, getting up on stage by yourself to tell sometimes untested material? That takes balls. Balls you probably don't fucking have sitting at your computer commenting anonymously. Okay? Honestly. In terms of stage presence and public speaking, I've got more balls than your average motherfucker. And it's demonstrably true. Some aspects of my life I'm a pussy. Some aspects of my life I've got more balls than you can imagine. I love getting up on stage, it's fun. It's a little frightening before you walk out because you're nervous about the outcome, and that's expected. If you're not nervous about the outcome, you don't care about the outcome. It's that simple. So you should be a little nervous, but once I'm out there and once I've told my first joke and once I've got my first laugh, I am in fucking control of that room. Fucking control, my friend. I am making you my friend. I command that you be my balls command you to be my friend. Anyway, so yeah, this guy has to go to conventions. That's the word. I was like thinking of what's that thing called? Magfest and E3. What are they called? Conventions. That's what they call. He has to go to conventions and speak in public. All right, more balls than you, my friend. Anyway, nice rant we had there. I'm looking at the waveform for the commentary. Lots of peaks. I like that. Anyway, next video we're gonna do the final boss. The last video is next. So I'll meet you there, and I'll catch you guys later.